Hi everybody, I'm Joe.
And I'm Mary.
And we're Book Buds. And today we have a summer reading wrap-up. Mary, how many books did you read this summer?
I've read over 30 books this summer.
And what genres did you go into?
My God, I feel like I really did a lot of different things. Don't you think so?
I do.
Yeah. A little of this and a little of that. Mainly because I was reading like stuff that I like, that I typically enjoy. Then I was reading stuff that my kids were wanting me to read. And I was reading stuff that I said that I would do for my New Year's resolutions because like I've just been letting that sit on the side and I needed to do some of that. So it's been a good mix.
I can't believe you read that many books.
I know.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
30.
I
Probably
also
more.
have been audiobooking some of them, and that's helped me to get through a bunch too.
Yeah.
Because I've been crocheting and audiobooking, so that's why it's more than 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a complete list, if you want like my true summer wrap up, you're gonna have to follow us on Goodreads because we log everything that we read there, and you'll be able to see. But I'm not gonna talk about them all today because like we like to save some of them to talk about like the series all together and things like that. We've talked about some of them already.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna talk about a few of them that we're not gonna cover like in their own little video. Sound good?
I'm so excited. Let's hear it.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So this one, like, I'd seen the cover a bunch. I knew it was a really popular book. And my daughter had read it, and she thought it was fantastic, and she wanted me to read it. And so it had been sitting, like, on my TBR for a little while. And I decided to audiobook this one because when there's something that somebody else is pushing me to read, I feel like I'm going to get annoyed if I'm reading the book and I'm not loving it.
Yeah.
So I decided to audiobook it. Thank God. The names in this book, Mary would have died. Like
Greek names, right?
Yeah, the Greek names. I would have been like, and just like, been like, I would have had no idea who they were. So instead, I got this man who had the voice of like Chris Hemsworth, who was reading to me.
You did tell me that.
Yes, and I was like, wow, this is an amazing voice. And he said all the words properly, so I have a clue as how to say Patroclus, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to tell you guys that name.
Yeah.
So the story is basically, it's the story of the Trojan War and Achilles, right? And it's told through the perspective of Patroclus. And he is in love with Achilles, and they grew up as boys together. So Patroclus, he accidentally killed somebody, and he was sent into exile, and he had to like go be raised by some other people, and that's how he met Achilles. And he then like, Achilles was like really popular and friend to all, but not really bonded with any one particular person. But then Patroclus kind of like surprised him, and they aligned together, and they went off and they trained under Chiron together, and just really developed like a very close relationship. So you see their passion develop throughout the story. You see like Patroclus's heart. My God, how much he loves him.
Really?
It is really, yeah, really very tender, very sweet. And it takes you all the way through the end of the story, which everybody knows Achilles dies, right? I'm not ruining it here. Like, you know he's gonna die.
Greek
I didn't remember anything else about the story, but like I was braced for that throughout the whole thing. So it takes you from their youth all the way through his death. Very, very well written, very passionate story. Yeah, it was really nice.
And there's some other books that she has written, right? In the same kind of vein?
I believe so. I haven't looked into her too much. This is the first I've decided to pick up, but yeah.
So you'd recommend that?
Yeah, it was really well done.
All right. That sounds good. What's next?
Next we have Dry by Augustin Burroughs.
Now this is different for you.
Yes, so I had read his first memoir ages ago, Running with Scissors, and I really enjoyed it because it was such a unique story. This boy had like a very strange upbringing. You read it, right?
Yeah, I love that title too.
Yeah.
Don't run with scissors.
I know, but his mom was like, go, do whatever you want. You know, it was really outrageous childhood that he had. So if you haven't read Running with Scissors, I do recommend that memoir. So I had wanted to read more of his because I knew he had other books, and I felt like I should read something else since I like that one so much. So Dry is about, it starts out like just basically about his experience with rehab. So he's gay, and he's like, you know what? I'm being forced to go to rehab. I'm going to go to a gay rehab so I can hook up with some guys. So he's like,
gay rehab.
Going to make it fun. He has a very good sense of humor throughout the book.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, even though like, you know, he's talking about some particularly tragic things or heartbreaking things. Like there are points that I was still like chuckling as I was listening to it. And I listened to this one, right? I didn't read it.
Oh yeah?
And I think it was read by the author.
Really?
I think so.
Did you say this is his most recent one?
No.
Okay, just
This
one
was
of
like
them.
the second one.
Because he has a lot, right?
Yeah. I think it was like the second one. Yeah, I think it was read by the author, and I did listen to it. I'm like hearing the voice right now.
That's cool.
Yeah, but so it starts off in rehab, and it's kind of like your typical what you would expect of rehab story, but it doesn't stay there. He worked in advertising in the city, so it talks about like what alcohol was like there, and then the really obnoxious people that he worked with. He had like this one really vindictive person that would leave all sorts of alcohol things around to like try and screw him up.
Oh my
even
God.
though it was the job that forced him to go to rehab, and he was doing a really good job like trying to keep his sobriety after that. And like there'd be empty alcohol bottles like put in his garbage can and stuff like that. One time somebody poured alcohol all over the carpet, so you walk in and you just smell all the alcohol.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Right by his desk. Really awful. Really awful. So
Is he from New York?
Yeah. Not a cool experience for him, but he really struggled to hold on to his sobriety. But his downfall was like bad relationships. He had very destructive relationships. You're not supposed to be in a relationship for like a year after you've started your journey with sobriety.
Yeah.
And he violated that rule and in some bad ways, and had some really messed up relationships too that were really upsetting and heartbreaking. So I think I cried with this book. I was definitely like emotionally connected during some of the sadder parts of it. But it was just overall, it was very well written because there was a good balance of like the sad and the interesting and the happy and the silly and things like that.
Okay.
So it was a good read.
Sounds like a good balance. You need that in a memoir.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. He makes a memoir very interesting, I think.
Yeah.
I still like the first one better though. It was like shocking.
Yeah.
So another one I want to talk about is The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith.
Boo. Boo.
So why did Mary want to read this? It's because Robert Galbraith is J.K. Rowling. And I have always wondered what she would be like writing something that was not Harry Potter. And I've heard that it wasn't the best, but nobody told me that it was terrible.
I told you I DNF'd it.
I know, but I didn't know what that exactly meant. So
It meant it was terrible.
I guess so. So this was my least favorite book that I've read in a long time. It was really boring. The story was basically about a private investigator named Corman Strike.
Yeah.
And he got this case about a girl. She had committed suicide, but the brother thought maybe it was murder, so he hired the private investigator to find out. And so this private investigator was like down on his luck, had like no jobs and like kicked out of his marriage, had no money, and he was like living out of his office. Could barely afford to pay the temp secretary that was new. I found like the best character that I liked the most was the temp secretary. She was really like
Temp secretary's the best.
She really was. She was really with it. She was interested in like the cases, and she was doing like research online to help him out, and wanted to go along to like interview people and whatnot. And it was like she was like a budding investigator. And this is a series. It continues on. I bet you she becomes like his partner down the road. But I can also guarantee you I won't read it, so I won't know.
We won't know.
And normally if I read book one of something, I'm gonna read book two.
You go through
like,
them all just because you have to, even if
usually,
you don't love them.
Right. I'm usually pretty committed to something like that. And I'll feel sad if I'm like, yeah, it's not good enough to keep reading. So I usually will continue on with the series, but this one I will not. I really wanted to quit the book because it was long and I really wasn't getting anywhere. It was just like, I'm gonna go interview these people and maybe interview those people, and it was so slow. But I had to finish it because I was like, well, I just need to know if she killed herself or not. Like I wanted to know. And then you find out, and I'm like, you know what? That was a lot of wasted time to find out this result at the end. I was like, ugh.
I wonder if they got better because this was like her first one.
Don't put that out there. You're gonna make me be like, should I read this? This was not her first one. She wrote all those Harry Potters. It's not like she's inexperienced.
First adult mystery. Maybe they got better as they went along, or maybe she should just stick to fantasy.
I don't know. Okay, so did any of you guys like read the other ones? Let me know if they got better and if I should read them, because I'm really feeling no. And so like I started reading this one in electronic like book format, which is my preferred reading method, and I hated it so much that I was like, I'm gonna audiobook this and like speed it up while I'm crocheting because I can't get through it. Otherwise I think I would have DNF'd it. It was hard.
Yeah.
So I do not recommend The Cuckoo's Calling.
So that was a dud.
Totally a dud. All right, next one I'm going to talk about is So This Is Ever After by F.T. Lukens. So this was a YA fantasy that my daughter had read. I think we read it side by side. It was cute. It was a story where there was this prophecy that this boy, his name was Arik, A-R-E-K. You say that, Arik?
Eric.
Yeah. Prophecy that he was going to save this kingdom, and there was like this evil dude that was on the throne, and he was like some kind of magical evilness, and Arik had to kill him, was the prophecy. Okay, so he goes, he kills him. It's kind of comical because he doesn't even have like a sharp blade when he does it. It's kind of silly. But when he kills the guy, he beheads him, he has to put the crown on his own head and take the throne, because otherwise the kingdom's going to be like, you know, somebody's going to rise up and just take over. It's going to be another bad guy. And they don't have the princess right there to claim the throne. She's like locked in a tower. Okay. So he's like, temporarily, I'm going to put this crown on my head. He does. And some kind of magical thing happens where it like grips him in that moment. And they go to the keep. They find the princess, but she's dead, long dead. So he is now the king, and he really doesn't want to be the king. Okay. And he's this young teenager. So he's got this group of other teenagers that are helping him with this prophecy. And he has to, once the crown is put on his head, he has to pick somebody to marry within 3 months or he will die.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, his friend Matt, who he loves, he's a mage, but Matt doesn't know that he's in love with him. He tells him that he has to marry somebody, but I don't think he told him that he's going to die. I think that was like the piece that he kept to himself, and that's what like messed everything up as he's going through this story. So Matt's like helping him to do a trial and error and like woo the different friends that are there on this journey with them. And it's really comical because like none of them are the people that he's supposed to be with. He should really be with this guy Matt. But he doesn't want to just approach Matt because first of all, he doesn't think that Matt likes him. Second of all, he thinks that if he told Matt that, you know, I'm going to die if somebody doesn't marry me, he doesn't want Matt to marry him out of guilt, you know, just like pity to save him. So like, you know, it, like most stories, if you just were truthful with each other, you'd skip all the nonsense, right?
You need a plot line, you need some
but all the
drama.
Withholding of all that information creates all this drama, and there's silly things that happen at a dance and whatever else. It was a cute story. It was youthful. It was fun. You know, it was good. Had a good ending.
But you wouldn't recommend it to like everybody, not me.
I wouldn't recommend it to everybody.
No good.
No, but it was a good youthful read for teenagers.
Teens.
I'd recommend it for teens.
Teens.
Yep.
Next,
Coraline.
Oh, I love Coraline.
I really wasn't sure, have I read Coraline or did I just watch? I know I watched most of the movie, but like didn't finish the movie for whatever reason. Like the kids had to go to bed or something like that. It wasn't like because I hated the movie, but I felt like I needed to know if I've read it. So I just decided to reread it or read it for the first time.
Okay.
So I read Coraline by Neil Gaiman.
You love him.
I do love him. So I imagine most people know the story of Coraline. And if you don't, I think it's one that's worth checking out. It's a cute little story. It's not a very long read about a girl that moves into a new house. She's all by herself. She's like looking for ways to fill her day because her mom and her dad pay no attention to her. And she goes and she's opening all the doors of the new house, and one of the doors is locked. And so she finds the key, opens the door, and there's a brick wall. It doesn't go anywhere. So then like the next time she opens the door, oh my gosh, it's open and she can get through to another world. And it's like she's just basically entering another dimension that's got the same exact house, but it's just different. And it's got the mom and dad, but they're different. So she's got another mother, another father, and they have buttons in their eyes, which makes it really kind of creepy.
Yep.
But they're perfect. They love her. They dote on her. They make amazing food. Everything is wonderful and glorious. But then things start to get creepy, and she desperately wants to find her original mom and dad and restore balance to life. So that's what the story is about. So I like Neil Gaiman. I recommend it if you like a little bit of a creepiness in your reading.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one I'm going to talk about today is also a young reader book. It's called The Wish Tree by Catherine Applegate. And this book is more for like 4th and 5th grade reading, I'd say. But it was a book that was selected by my library for adult summer reading time because they have a challenge for our community where we do one book. So kids can read it, adults can read it. So that like our whole community can come together and discuss this book and be bonded by a book. I don't know if other places do this one book kind of idea. We've done it in our schools. Like our PTO will buy a book for all the kids of the entire school and send it home, and we'll read it all at the same time. But then this was just for our whole town. So
was there an event?
Yes. Yeah. So it starts with adult summer reading, and like there's 7 different challenges that we had to do and check off. It completed them all. Reading this was one. So at the end of the summer, we all came together, and there was an event where we had like snacks and we talked about the book. There were, because it was a community-based theme in the book, we talked about those community-based themes, and like then our own personal things came out, you know. So like the wishing tree, the community would write their wishes on a little card and tie them up in the tree. So I got to write a wish, and they tied it up in a tree by my library.
Okay,
which
yeah.
I thought was really fun.
Cool.
Yeah. But so that's, you know, my story about my library. But what the book's about.
I love that event, by the way.
Yeah, it was cute.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah.
I want to go.
So the book is about a tree named Red, and Red can talk to animals, but is not supposed to talk to humans. Okay, and this is the wishing tree. And so Red has a friend named Bongo. He's a bird, and he's got quite a big personality. And there's 2 houses on either side of Red, and a Muslim family moves into one of the houses, and there's a little girl that lives there, and there's a little boy that lives next door. So the Muslim family is the only Muslim family in the entire community, and here this wishing tree that's always so positive, all of a sudden somebody comes and they carve leave into the tree.
Oh, no.
This is not just like a wish written on paper in the tree. This is carved into poor Red, okay? And that's just, it's terrible in so many ways, okay? So people are upset in the community, but you definitely get the divided feeling in the community too. There's a lot of like hate and nastiness, and the girl doesn't feel comfortable in the school setting and whatnot. But what's beautiful is the way that it brings the community back together at the end. So the boy next door does some, I don't want to like spoil it in case you do want to read it with your family. Boy next door does something really special, really moving, that brings people back together to support this girl at the end of the story. But my favorite character, and a lot of people's favorite character, is the tree, Red, because Red's not supposed to talk to people, but she violates that rule just one time.
To the girl
and the boy.
Aww.
She talks to them at the same time and tells them a story. So the story is something that then brings them to other community members and, like, you know, tries to salvage things and make things right.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it was a very cute story. When I first was reading it, you know, because it was like adult summer reading and I'm being told to read a kid's book, I was like, I don't love this. But it was the perfect choice of a book for the community to be reading and discussing and to be feeling good about, you know?
Sounds like a really good choice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and these 6 books don't really characterize like me as a reader of what I typically read.
No, they don't.
But like I didn't feel like I would talk about each of them necessarily separately in a video. So that's why I wanted to put them in my summer wrap up.
Good for you for branching out.
Yeah. Branching out like a tree.
Get it, Red?
Uh-huh.
I love it. All right.
Did you guys read anything different this summer? Did you step out of your comfort zone? I'm curious.
And if you're enjoying Book Buds, give us a thumbs up.
And share us with your friends.
And subscribe to our channel, Book Buds!
I love my book buds.
You remind me of like we're doing like a children's show. And like you're talking to the kids at home. Did you
Tell
ever
me.
go out of your comfort zone?
We're supposed to engage our viewers,
It's
bud.
very funny.
That's why I'm talking to you guys. Do you feel engaged and loved?
We feel so engaged.
He feels engaged.